So one of the more common problems with budget instruments is that oftentimes the fret ends tend to be a little sharp. This is particularly common among guitars that are under the $200 price point because obviously the manufacturers have to cut cost somewhere. And many times that cost cut comes in the form of not having the frets filed down. Thankfully, this is a very simple fix, and although it may look a little bit intimidating, it's actually quite easy to do. So in this video, I'll walk you through the steps that I take to file down a guitar's fret ends. This will help make the guitar ultra playable, and you'll never really have known there was ever an issue. Let's dive in. All right, so before we get going, what we're going to do here is look at a few different items we're going to need, one of which is going to be a fret file. If you look closely, you may or may not be able to see Stuart McDonald. This is from StewMac. I'll leave links in the description, some of which will be affiliate links, but I'll leave links in the description to everything that I use. Just keep in mind, I may earn a small commission from it. We're going to use this fret polishing pad. Afterwards, since we have the fretboard taped, we might as well polish these frets up. Even though the guitar came with the frets polished, since the fretboard is taped off, we might as well go ahead and really get at it and make sure that these frets are shining. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and get the strings off the guitar and get the fretboard taped up so we can get started. All right, so with regards to the file, if you are experienced with doing this, you probably don't need to tape these off. But the presumption is you're watching this video because you've never done this sort of thing before. Because of that, what we're going to do is go ahead and tape off the frets to make sure that we are not scratching the fretboard as we're filing these down. All we're going to do here is take the tape and put it along the fret wire, covering the fretboard to protect it and leaving the fret wire exposed. And the cool thing about this is once we're done filing the frets, we can polish them too. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed through this so we can get to filing. All right, so with the fretboard taped off, there's one other area we're going to want to tape. We're going to want to make sure that we tape right over here and right over here on the off chance, in case that file slides off, we don't want to scratch our guitar. So we want to take every precaution that we can. We're also going to go ahead and tape this first single coil here. That way, any off chance of any metal coming off of here and getting stuck on that, we don't have to worry about. Okay, so it looks like we are ready to go and start filing. So there's really two reasons that frets will need to be filed. One of them is the fret may be too long, and if that's the case, you have to come up from underneath. The other may be that the edge of the fret is too sharp. That, to me, seems to be the most common. But if you are coming up from underneath, you also want to be careful with that. So with our file, what we want to do is kind of just roll over the edge of the fret like this. And you can use your index finger to kind of guide it. That's one thing I've always done. And I typically do both sides. And then from there, I can already feel that fret is much smoother. So you can see this is a pretty simple thing to do. You want to use the flat side of the file. But these two here are good to go. To be perfectly honest with you, this is a very simple thing to do, and it's something that really every guitar player should know how to do. It's one of those things that you are definitely going to encounter on a budget instrument sooner or later. The biggest piece of advice I will give you is take your time, don't rush. This isn't a race because you don't want to make a mistake and mess up your instrument. You want to make sure you're rolling over the fret. So it's kind of flat side down, just kind of rolling over it. It should be noted that any basic metal file will work for this. It doesn't have to be StewMac. And all we're really doing here is just filing down the sharp edge of the fret without scratching our fretboard. All right, so with the frets filed down, what we're going to do now is just simply polish these frets. And this is very easy to do. I have a polishing cloth, and I actually have a polish that I'm going to use when I'm done with this to go the extra step. But we're really going to make these frets shine. So with something like this, all you have to do is kind of fold it over and just work it right over the fret. And it immediately polishes the fret up. And you can see here, it's already making a difference before we've even gotten into the polish. These, although they're shiny, and hats off to Fesley for that, they're not as shiny as they are when they're freshly polished. I'm going to finish polishing these with the polishing cloth and move on to the second step. All right, so if we want to take it one step further, we can use this polish here. It is Freen. I'm not exactly quite sure how you say it. If you know, feel free to leave a comment. This stuff really takes fret polishing to the next level and removes any oxidation that was left over by the polishing cloth. A little bit of this fret polish goes a long way towards making these frets look incredible. mean, you can see what's still coming off of them, and that's, interestingly enough, pretty typical. While they do state that this stuff will not harm your fretboard, they also state that you should wipe it off immediately if it gets on the fretboard. So having the fretboard taped off is really the perfect time to use this stuff. I mean, those frets are just absolutely glaring. You can see here, these are the ones I did with the Frine, whatever you want to call it. These I haven't done yet, but they're still pretty shiny. And again, this is a sub $200 guitar. I think this guitar retails for around $160. And it just goes to show you that with a little bit of time and effort, these budget instruments can be turned into real players, and the frets can really be brought to life. It doesn't really take that much time. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, you can probably do this in about an hour to an hour and a half. I think we are about done here. I'm going to get a closer look at these frets just to show you guys how good they look, all shined up. You can kind of see already here that makes a huge difference. So one last time I'm going to show off exactly how shiny these frets came out. The fret ends are now smooth thanks to filing them down. And luckily this guitar, as it arrived, the frets were leveled and crowned correctly, so that really wasn't an issue. The only issue was that the frets were a little bit sharp. We fixed that, we've polished them up, they're nice and shiny, and we're good to go. I'd like to thank Fesley for reaching out and sending me this guitar to do a review. So if you want to know more about this guitar, be sure to check out this video right here, where I do a full review and audio demos of it. If you have any questions, by all means, leave those in the comments, as I do try to answer all the questions that come through on the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.